So today is lesson 8, and we just had a little visit from Ken in Academic Success talking about our peer tutoring options. So you can reach out through Academic Success at georgiancollege.ca if you need any help, with any of the courses as you're wrapping up your semester. Also had co-op question. I'll post the link in the chat. So Hung, I found the address on here, but general questions about co-op, particularly related to, so this was updated last month around, potential changes to co-op due to COVID-19, and how to get in touch with the co-op team if you need. If you're looking for co-op and you don't have it, but you've demonstrated an active job search, there are some other learning options available in this case. Well, Justin, it's not, but you have to read the details on this page. Normally it is a requirement, but it's not just a case that you can just skip it. So the conditions are here, that you demonstrate an active job search, and if you don't find a job, you're eligible for other options, which mean you might defer the co-op, you might do a project, some sort of prior learning assessment, etc. So it's not that you can just ignore co-op and we hand you the diploma. So you do need to connect with the co-op department to talk about the options and how this works. Okay, so I don't want you to feel like you can just forget about it and complete just your courses and graduate. So you still have to, you'll still have to go through the process. Okay, so if you don't have a job, you'll still need to go through this process and work with your co-op consultant. Okay, because our program is one that normally has required co-op. So I would have a look carefully at the FAQ on this page. So just wanted to clarify. So while you're told that it's not a requirement, technically true, but there are still some things you have to do if you don't have those co-op hours. Okay, yeah. So if you're a bit confused about where you go or how you proceed with this, then Maggie, that's definitely the right approach, is use the email address here and talk to your co-op advisor about it. And they'll discuss what your options are if you have not found a co-op position yet. Okay, so want to look at a couple things we have coming up, which are basically the remaining assignments that we've got for the course. I'm actually going to look at assignment 2 first of all, and then we're also can start to do a little planning for our tutorials, which will cover the last couple weeks of class. And then we will jump back into our Node Express Mongo site, and we're going to continue implementing authentication. We may not get this all finished today. It may bleed into next week's class, and if so, that's okay. So assignment 2 is now posted in 2 parts on Blackboard, and I want to go over it with you guys. Just close out some things here that we don't need for today. Okay. So assignment 2 counts for 25% of your grade. It's due in 2 parts. The first part is due next week, and it's simple. You're basically just going to submit a project plan. And I've created a template document. You're basically just going to complete that document. You don't have to write any code for next week. That's going to be part 1. And then you'll have 2 more weeks. You have 3 weeks in total to actually build and deploy the project. It is an independent assignment. You have to do your own work. You're not just going to go find a tutorial online, replicate it, and submit it. Okay, so you have to do your own work that shows learning, shows you've learned the things we've been doing together in class. Okay, subject to a code review, where I'm asking you to explain. You can use other code sources, but with these parameters, right? You cite where the code came from. It's not more than 10% of your project. You can explain any third-party code you use and check with me ahead of time before you use it. Hey, Rich, can I use this? It's from this web. I found this on Stack Overflow, and can I implement it on the project? And here's why I want to use it for. And I'll say yes. Okay. So you're basically going to build a secure CRUD application with Node Express and MongoDB. Okay. So you can build anything you like. I know I prefer to give you choice of, pick an application that would be useful that you might want to build. I mean, you could even do a Node version of your .NET project. You could build something entirely different, doesn't matter to me. I know some students struggle with the idea of choosing a project to build. If you're struggling with it, then send me an email and we can chat about it, and I'm happy to help you try to figure out what to build. Okay, so I'm happy to provide some guidance. We can have a meeting or an email exchange about it if you're totally lost. I know I've had the odd student in the past say, I hate having to choose my own project. Just tell me what to do. But in general, you guys are adults. I treat you like adults, which means trying to give you some choice. Again, you can use the GitHub repository for the class files as a reference, not as a starting place for your project. Okay, so you're going to create a new web app using the Express generator. You'll use MongoDB and Mongoose for your data storage and connectivity. You'll use HBS templating for your views and controllers for your application logic. You'll customize the look and feel, so feel free to use Bootstrap, but if you do, at least make it look different than the site we're doing in class. You can use a third-party style sheet or your own CSS. Whatever you choose, just mention it in the README file where the CSS comes from, just so I know. You'll also implement authentication, which we started on last week and we're going to keep working on this week, so that only home, register, and log in, and then you have a read-only page that shows your data are public. The pages for creating, updating, deleting, those would all be private. So an anonymous user can only view the data, but they can't add, edit, or delete. Okay, so you're going to create the project plan for next week. We'll look at the template in a minute. And then you'll build the working app. You'll have a home page that kind of describes your site, shared header and footer in your layout, a public page that lists all the data in a read-only format. Register, log in, and then private pages where users can view, add, edit, delete data. That should also have a confirmation. You then have to implement one additional feature of your own, and you have to list in your README file which feature you picked. So here are some options. You can do we're going to cover GitHub authentication. If you want to add an additional login provider, like Facebook, Twitter, Google, whatever, you can do that. You could add file upload functionality. You could add a keyword search or something else, some other feature that you think, hey, my site could use this. Just list in the README file what it is you pick. But again, your choice. Something that shows some independent learning. And you'll add some comments. Okay, so here's the grading. Few marks for comments, version control, deployment to Heroku. So for next week, here's the project plan template. This is all you have to submit. Pretty simple. Put your name on it. Step one. Step two, put in a bit of a description of what your project is. Why did you pick this project and what's the utility of it? Which additional feature in this section, so in this kind of extra feature, What feature do you think you're going to implement? And if it involves adding additional NPM packages, do a little research and list what package or packages you might use. You're not absolutely required to use them, but you have to do a little research here. And then explain your plan for the CSS. I'm doing my own, I'm using a framework, I'm doing a combination. What's your plan and why? So this is all you have to submit for next week. Yeah, so this is pretty easy marks. I'm just asking you to think about and plan out the project. You don't have to do any of it yet. Now you're going to submit this next week, and next week, I'm not sure whether we'll do it as a take-home assignment or I may even allocate some class time. Next week, we're going to have the world's simplest lab. And in the lab, we're going to trade. I'm going to match everybody up, and you're going to trade project plans. And for the lab, all you have to do is provide some feedback to your partner on their project. Yes, Rudia, good point. So yes, so if you say, I'm going to do file uploads using, the Multer NPM package, and then I try to implement it and I decide, actually, you know what, that's not going to work. I'm going to do Twitter login instead. Yes, you can change it. Just when you submit the project, make sure in your README file, you tell me my extra feature is Twitter authentication. So I know. But yep, you are allowed to make changes to this because sometimes it happens, right? We plan something out, and as we get going, it's a great question. Are we allowed to change it? Yes, you are. But at least this gives you a guide, and I want you to kind of make most of the decisions ahead of time. But yeah, if you have to change it, absolutely, that's allowed. Not a problem. Okay. So I tried this for the first time in this course last year, having students submit the plans and then get feedback from a peer. And students really liked getting the feedback. And they found it was really interesting for them to see what other people's ideas were. And many of them gave really useful suggestions so that people could, take their idea and make it better. So that's going to be a simple lab that we'll do either in class or just as a take-home assignment, where you'll have a little bit of time to review a peer's project plan and give them some feedback, and they will give you feedback on your plan. Okay, so you're not going to grade them, you're just going to make comments and suggestions. This is what I liked. Here's an idea that you might want to consider. Okay, so you've got a week for the plan and 2 additional weeks to build. But because you can use the Express generator, I think that should be sufficient time. Are there any other questions about either part of the assignment? You only get one free database on MongoDB Atlas, so use the existing database that you're using in class as well. If you go to make a new database cluster, it'll ask you to pay. So you'll just use your existing database cluster. But you can make a new Git repository and new Heroku application. Heroku gives you 5 free. Yeah, Hung, absolutely. So great question. Yes, so if that's what you want to do for your bonus feature is use a front-end JavaScript framework instead of HBS templating, yep, absolutely. And I did have students do that last year. So absolutely you can do that. Again, just list it in the README file so I know what the feature is. So, and you can propose that. That's part of the template, right? What additional feature are you thinking of? So you'll want to think about that and at least make an initial decision by next week. Is everybody clear on the requirements? Is there anything that didn't necessarily make sense or is a bit confusing? Okay, thanks, Maria. Yeah, we know each other pretty well by now, so I know that probably you've made it this far, so you have a pretty good idea of what I'm expecting. Okay, as you read through these and get started, if you have other questions, then feel free to send me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so that's our first. There's assignment 2. I also want to start to plan out our tutorials for the last couple of weeks of class. So if we look at sort of what's going on, I think I've updated this. So we're in week 8. So we're going to hopefully start into Angular next week. And I guess this should say lab 2. It's not lab 3. So we'll do 3 weeks of Angular. And then our last 2 classes are our tutorials. So the purpose of the tutorials, it serves a few purposes. So if you open up your lesson 8 folder and you click on this link, it says tutorial list, please edit in your browser. So I've got everybody's, the class list here. So the idea of the tutorial is to do a few things once. Number 1, this is instead of having a final exam. Number 2, it's a chance for you to explore something else related to our JavaScript stack that might interest you. You know, we can't cover everything in this course. We're really mostly focused on Node Express and MongoDB, and, you know, we'll tack on a little bit of Angular. So I've proposed here some possible topics. So basically what the assignment is doing is giving you a chance to do a little research and become a little bit of an expert on some other related topic that we're not covering in class. And the value of having you prepare and teach the rest of us a tutorial is when you have to explain something to someone else, you know, it only reinforces your own knowledge. You know, we learn something that much more when we're helping to teach someone else. And a lot of what we do, many of you, when you're out working, you're going to wind up training and teaching other people, right? Either we're teaching our clients how to use the products that we build. Eventually, you know, you're going to start as junior designers and developers, but eventually many of you are going to get promoted. You're going to have people working under you that you have to train and instruct on how to do things. So this assignment is partly a preparation for that. So what I'd like us to do, we don't exactly have to figure out who's going to do what. I've proposed, we kind of want to narrow down our topics to 6, and they can come from this list, but they can also be other topics, other ideas. I think, Justin, you had suggested something earlier in the semester that you had asked about, are we going to learn? And I said no, but it could potentially be one of our tutorial topics. So I'm going to ask you, you can use the chat, have a look at this list, or if there's anything else, any other kind of related JavaScript topic that you think, hey, I'd be interested in learning more about that and maybe helping to lead an hour tutorial. I'd like to hear from everybody what topics, either of your own or from this list, what interests you the most. So put it in the chat and we'll kind of collectively figure out what our tutorial topics are going to be. Right, that was it, Justin. Okay, so that was two-factor authentication. I'm going to add that to the list. Thanks, Justin. Okay, so a couple people have said they're interested in Gatsby. I'm actually going to add unit testing with Node. Okay, so please use the chat. Have a look at the list. Okay, yeah, there's frameworks like Mocha for unit testing with Node. I've had students do that in the past. Okay, Nick, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, even just doing file uploads with Node, which is something we haven't learned, but converting. Okay. So please weigh in on the chat. Which of these would be either the most interesting or most useful to know? Okay, thanks, Aditi. Interested in, how to integrate PayPal. We've had some students do that in the past. Barak, thank you. So you're interested in two-factor. So I would like a comment from everybody, please. Okay, Twilio. For messaging, yep, I can add that one to the list. Thanks, Hung. That's a good suggestion. Okay, that's another one. Yeah, Barak, actually, I think I've had some students do live chat before. Yep. Okay, GraphQL. Okay, so Rachel, yep, you're interested in chat and search. Okay, we've got Discord. Green Sock, okay, never heard of it. Is there anybody who hasn't weighed in? Just looking at my list. So Young, Rebecca, Maria, what do you think? Janelle, I think we've heard from most other people, but please weigh in and let us know what interests you. Live chat and Gatsby, okay. Thanks, Rebecca. Just do this. Okay, so here's how we'll do this. Looking at what we've seen. So we've got Gatsby, two-factor auth, PayPal, live chat, Twilio, unit testing. Okay, that's an interesting one, Maria. Drag and drop. Sure. Search. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Here's what we'll do. Thanks. I think we've got lots of good suggestions. So we've got one, two, we've got 8. Here's what I want you to do. We're going to narrow this down to 6. So follow the link on Blackboard. I'll put it in the chat as well. Here's what I want you to do. Edit the file in your browser. So Barak, for example, you're first. I want you to put a 1, a 2, and a 3 in the categories you think are the 3 most interesting to you. So everybody edit the file. Don't download it. Please edit it in your browser. So beside your name, put a 1, a 2, and a 3 into the 3 topics that interest you the most. And whichever ones seem to have the most interest, those will be the ones we'll do. And then we'll kind of figure out who's doing which topic and going to work together. So how many of us are there in the class? So there's 21 students in the class. So we'll maybe have, well, Justin, that's kind of the cool thing about this activity is it's a chance to learn. Gatsby is actually a JavaScript-based content management system. It's become quite popular. Yeah, we actually had last year a group that did their project for Project Studio in Gatsby. I should check, actually. I wonder if I can even show you that one if I can find it. Let's see. It might even still be up hosted somewhere. Let's see. It doesn't look like it. Mind you, this site might be Gatsby. Yes, it is. So Envy actually used Gatsby to do his portfolio. In this class, this was his assignment from last year. So it's a Jamstack CMS. Aditya, that's a good question. You can use Next.js with Gatsby. That's one of the options. I don't know much about Gatsby. I should, but I haven't had time to learn it yet. So I believe most Gatsby sites do use Next.js. So I think that would be part of it. And TypeScript, which we're going to learn when we do Angular. Okay. So looking at this, just looking at which are our most popular. So certainly Gatsby. So Twilio doesn't seem nobody, that was in no one's top 3. So we might eliminate Twilio. And we have unit testing, but probably nobody's top choice. So we'll probably keep Gatsby, two-factor authentication, PayPal, live chat, and then maybe drag and drop and search. That's okay, Hung. It was a brainstorming exercise. So I think here's what we'll do. I'm going to have to make up the groups, but I will do my best to make up the groups based on people's preferences. Obviously, if we've got, for example, like 5 people whose first choice is Gatsby, we'll definitely do Gatsby, but a group of 5 may be a little bit too large. So somebody may wind up with their second choice, for example. Okay, so I'll do my best. I know in Project Studio, you got to completely choose your groups. So I will make up the groups for the tutorials based on your preferences, and I'll try to put assign everybody one of their top 3 choices. Okay, and then there's some other students who are not in class right now and haven't indicated their choices, so they may be, I will make the groups. So I'll put the groups together for next week's class. And then at the start of next week's class, I can also go over the requirement. Yeah, it is, Maria. And there's 2 reasons for this. One is it's probably too much work for a single person to do. And 2, the idea is we're going to do 2 classes. So basically each tutorial is about 50 minutes. So we can do 3 of them in week 12 and 3 of them in week 13. We have no week 14 this semester. So if we did it as an individual assignment with 21 students, the issue just becomes time. I will say if someone has a really good reason why they can't possibly do it with the group and they want to try to do their own tutorial, which I really don't recommend because I think it's too much work. And again, then we have the timing problem. Then I guess you can email me and we can discuss it and try to figure out some way to do this. But I think it would be better if you're working with some classmates. Is there a concern, Maria, or you were just trying to clarify? Okay. And I mean, normally the tutorials I've found they're quite well received. Students like getting a chance to kind of become the expert in one thing. And then it's also a chance for you to learn from each other because, you're doing for those last 2 classes, you're going to be the instructor for 50 minutes and give us a demo that we're going to follow along. But then the rest of the time you're learning from each other. Then you just get to be a student the rest of the time. Normally over the last 2 classes, when we're in person, I usually bake something and bring it to class. Unfortunately, that isn't going to happen this year, much to my chagrin. But it is a good chance for you to delve into something at a deeper level and have that experience of providing some training and tutoring to your peers. We all know each other, so we're not talking to strangers. Okay, so I'll post the requirements for the tutorial once I make up the groups and we can go over this the start of class next week. It's not due for a while. Okay, we're only in week 8. This is 4 weeks away. And you'll have time to do assignment 2 first. So if you are watching the lesson asynchronously, you're watching on YouTube, the link is here on Blackboard. You can edit the sheet in your browser and please indicate which 3 topics interest you the most, and I will try to assign everybody one of the 3 topics that they're most interested in. If you don't vote, then you get what you get as I make up the groups. So it'll be, as I said, some groups of 3 and some groups of 4. Alrighty. Okay. Well, it's 12:49. So all I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to open up Webstorm, get our project launch from last week. So we can just refresh where we left off. Sorry, I guess it's been 2 weeks because we did a reading week. So we haven't looked at it for a bit. So let's just open the project. So I'll use NodeMon to launch it. So here's where we left off. We could add, edit, and delete projects. There's no security right now. And last week, we just downloaded, I gave you the HTML for the register and login forms, but they're not yet functional. If we look at our index.js, I'm sorry, they are functional. We can log in. So if I put in a bad login, tells me this. If I put in a good login, takes me here. But our pages are actually still public. And there's also no indication that I've logged in. So we're going to take a break. When we come back at 1 o'clock, we're going to do a few things. We need to start to control access, first of all. So we can't add, edit, or delete until we're logged in. We need some logic in our navbar so it works like our ASP.NET navbar, that these links show when we're anonymous, and our username and logout shows up once we log into the site. And then lastly, we're going to want to implement a third-party login. We used Google last semester. We're actually going to use a GitHub login. So we're going to let people log in with their GitHub accounts today. Okay, so I'm going to pause, stop the recording, stop my screen share, go see what my daughter's doing in the other room who just woke up. And we'll be back in 10 minutes. We'll get going with this. Yeah, she's about the same age as you guys. She's almost 19. She worked the last couple days. She's got a couple days off. I don't blame her. Okay, we'll be back soon.